nobody else is going to understand me and my situation, so I'm not going to share it. Therefore, I'm going to isolate and I'm going to sit in my own head with my own, it's like that whole you're only as sick as your secrets. It's like the minute I say that out loud, that I'm feeling this, as an alcoholic, I often say a profound sense of loneliness.
Yes.
As soon as I feel that feeling, but I say it out loud, then it's like that's the spark of that human connection, right? Where other people are like, oh my gosh, I've felt that way too.
We know we're telling the truth when we feel like vomiting. You let time pass. That's the cure. You survive the days. You float like a rabid ghost through the weeks. You cry and wallow and lament and scratch your way back up through the months. And then one day you find yourself alone on a bench in the sun, and you close your eyes and lean your head back and you realize you're okay.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of 8's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Welcome to the Boozeless Book Club. I'm Amy Liz Harrison. This is Dr. Sarah Michaud, and we have been having a blast together.
Oh my God.
Just picking one random book that one of us comes across and just saying, okay, let's get together and we're going to read this, talk about it. And this month we read Brave Enough by Cheryl Strayed.
Look at my copy. I've used it as a coaster.
Dude,
It was next to my bed. It's like totally warped. I know.
I'm so happy to see that because that's how I treat books usually, and then I'm so
Yes.
embarrassed.
No.
Okay.
I just want to say I am loving this. I love you. I feel like we connect on so many levels. And I just randomly thought this is like might be a quick one because it's a book of quotes, but it is so good. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the audience knows Cheryl Strayed from the book Wild, and then the movie was made. And it was so interesting because I watched an interview on Super Soul Series or whatever that Oprah's thing. And Cheryl told Oprah that the first time she was interviewed on that show for her book Wild, the book was on the New York Times bestselling list. They were broke. She had to go to the Goodwill store to buy a $5 shirt to go on Meet Oprah. I mean,
I love that.
Don't you love that? Because yeah, she's like, you don't get money from books for like a year. And she said her husband was like, don't we have any money? She says, no. But anyways, I wanted to read just this first. Actually, Oprah read it today, and I thought it was so brilliant about why this book is so powerful. And she wrote, I believe in the power of words to help us reset our intentions, clarify our thoughts, and create a counter narrative to the voice of doubt many of us have murmuring in our heads. The one that said, oh my God, I'm going to start crying. The one that says you can't, you won't, you shouldn't have. Quotes at their core almost always shout yes. That was in the introduction.
Okay, which page was that on?
That is on page. That's like in the early, it's like the fourth page.
Yes. Okay.
And it's, I think of quotes as mini instruction manuals. So I mean, you know what reading this over in the last week and also watching that interview, it made me kind of get motivated to think about intentions and create intentions because I'm in a major transition part of my life, and it's really helped to read this book. And I wanted to ask you, well, I'm going to just say two more things. One is, I love this because it's all about being human. It's all about telling the truth. It's all about like we're all the same and just forgiving ourselves, moving on, taking responsibility for our lives. I mean, I have a bunch of favorites, but I just love so many of these quotes. So, do you have a favorite? What are some ones you want to talk about? What was your experience like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I love that you started out that way because the past two, like I got sober through 12 steps. And so the last two meetings that I have attended, both of them have been on, I'm going to call it feeling different than other people, feeling like an outcast, right?
Yes.
Feeling like, well, nobody else is going to understand me and my situation, so I'm not going to share it. Therefore, I'm going to isolate and I'm going to sit in my own head with my own, it's like that whole you're only as sick as your secrets.
Yes.
And I think that what's ironic is that when that happens to me, I don't always recognize that I'm the one making myself an outcast. No one else is doing that. It's a feeling that I have, and then it's like I'm stoking that fire, going, yeah, I'm an outcast. And then I start looking for, like, I'm gathering receipts, like, oh, see, that's why, because this person didn't call me back. And this person, yeah, see, and I'm building evidence for a case that I'm an outcast. And it's like the minute I say that out loud, that I'm feeling this, as an alcoholic, I often say a profound sense of loneliness.
Yes.
As soon as I feel that feeling, but I say it out loud, then it's like that's the spark of that human connection, right? Where other people are like, oh my gosh, I've felt that way too. And, I love that because I feel like that's like why I'm here, right? To connect with other people, to walk shoulder to shoulder. And
Yes.
I'm just grateful that you're one of the people I get to do that with. But anyway, in answer to your question about what are some of my favorites, I liked this one. This one's on page 19. And it says, most things will be okay eventually, but not everything will be.
Oh,
Sometimes you'll put up a good fight and lose. Sometimes you'll hold on really hard and realize there is no choice but to let go.
oh,
Acceptance is a small, quiet room.
oh.
I know. That one just gave me goosebumps because it's really true that when I'm in the weeds of something,
Yes.
I can't see past that. Like I just feel sort of like, every day I'm micromanaging all these different things regarding a situation. And, I forget that, yeah, sometimes we need to do that. But to remember that I'm in a spiritual flow is so important
Yes.
because it's like nothing that happens to me, I don't think, is by sheer accident slash or unseen by my higher power. And so, for me to, just follow that lead, it is true. It's sort of like, I tell my kids when they apply to college, because it's such a big thing. Where am I going
Such
to
a big
go?
thing.
And this decision
Yes.
can affect the rest of my life and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
What I always tell my guys is you just need to pick a starting place. And if you pick a starting place, what's going to happen is you'll either remain there and your journey will unfold, or, you'll have a conversation with someone that you bump into on campus. And that person will say something, share something with you that opens a door. And then you make that connection, and then another door will open. And then maybe that will take you to another place or another career opportunity or whatever it is. But that part just happens, it unfolds. And so you just need to pick a place to begin.
Yes.
And I think it helps. It helped me anyway. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I mean, did you say 18,000 brilliant things right then? Okay. I am not kidding. First of all, belonging, every addict, every patient I've had, the whole idea of I don't belong is such a common thread with people. So for you to bring that up is brilliant. The loneliness, I also think we could do a whole book on that,
Yeah.
some book on it, because I think that's just a huge thing right now. And I also think for myself sometimes it's the most vulnerable thing to admit for some
Yes.
reason. Like it's almost like we pathologize it. Like, oh, I should be ashamed if I'm lonely. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that was beautiful. And I love the quote. And it's so true. It's like, I don't know why this is where I'm going with this quote, but it reminds me of amends, and it reminds me of being accepting the things that I've done. Because I always say to people, it's fine when I'm in recovery and I'm writing out my resentments and I'm the victim and I feel like a victim. But then, as my sponsor likes to say, we know we're telling the truth when we feel like vomiting. Have I said that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she says that, and it's so true because it's like the stuff that I've done, like stealing my mother's jewelry or things I did to buy drugs, some of those things I just have to learn to live with. You can make amends around things, but some stuff is just the way it is. And I have to learn to live with things and then think about how I'm going to do living amends and be of service or whatever. And some things will work out and some things won't, but we still have to go on. And that is a lot of the theme of this book also. She talks about going on even when, that quote, one of my favorite quotes is being willing to break your own heart. And I think I've thought a lot about that because it's like doing the things, because she talks a lot about truth also. Being willing to do the things that are going to really hurt, whether it's leaving a job you've been at forever, whether it's ending a marriage that you've been in, that you're going to lose your friends, or, making these hard decisions. I think about my friend Finn, who was married and had to face that he was transgender. And it's like doing these hard decisions that are heartbreaking. And I think about my son going to college and how painful that was because it had been the two of us for so long. And that if we're not willing to do that, we don't grow and the people in our lives don't grow. And
True.
that it's also temporary, that if we stay in something that doesn't work, it's just going to be chronic unhappiness or chronic disillusionment or chronic needing to detach and escape rather than a beginning, a middle, and end to your pain and discomfort. Yeah.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
I love
It's a
that so
biggie.
much.
It's
Yeah.
a biggie. Yeah.
It's a biggie. It's a biggie. Another one that I wanted to hear your thoughts on is this is 77, page 77. If someone is being unkind or petty or jealous or distant or weird, you don't have to take it in. You don't have to turn it into a big psychodrama about your worth, which I thought was awesome. That behavior so often is not even about you. It's about the person who's being unkind or petty or jealous or distant or weird. If this were summed up on a bumper sticker, it would say, "Don't own other people's crap." The world would be a better place if we all did that.
So good. I mean, and it's the codependency thing, right? It's, I mean, not just codependency, but that I'm so focused, my self-esteem is coming from what other people think, feel, and say and do, rather than it's coming from me. And that whole early training on, when chaos is going in our surroundings and we're relying on external sources to feel okay, that's when we become way more preoccupied with what others are thinking of us rather than what we are. And it's definitely a practice. I mean, I get a lot of practice in my present relationship. If he's mad, it happened yesterday. I did something, he got upset, and he said, wow, because we've practiced, he's like, I'm having a reaction. I'm upset. Maybe we need to get off the phone for a while. And the thing is, his upset was about something I said, but his upset was about him. Yeah. So it sounds so crazy. It's not about me, because I could say that to someone else and they wouldn't be upset. It's whatever happens. And he owned it, and he came back later and talked about it. And I think that's the trouble. What is that? The 4 agreements, don't take anything personally. And yet when it's people we love and care about, and very often it can be someone who, I remember getting my first, in my podcast, my first negative, like someone said, oh, what are you, you're really a psychologist or something. And I was like, because she or he didn't like what I said. And I remember going, oh my God. And then I thought, I wouldn't take anything back that I said. So that's about them. But it does throw you off, I think, a little bit, sometimes depending on who it is. But it could be a total stranger having more impact than someone I know, which is crazy.
Yeah. No, I know. Thank you for sharing that, because like that, I feel that so deeply. And, I think the thing that comes to mind too is that, if someone else's behavior is about them, like, what's important for me to remember and realize is, sometimes people aren't capable of actually, realizing that. And so, I can think of just to get current, so on Monday I get to go, I'll change my word, to the Mayo Clinic. I've had this eye condition going on. Well, for me, I know the importance of bringing someone with you, a friend, spouse, partner, whatever, just to be a second set of ears, just to make sure that you heard everything that you thought you heard, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Like an advocate, right?
I get it.
So, my best friend lives in Arizona. That's where I'm going. But I just really, I want to see her. Like, I don't want to go down there and be the patient. Now, I get that she would be there for me, all this stuff. I get that. Yes. And she has in the past. But I just want to see her and go to dinner and that kind of thing. Like, so, and also, I announced to my husband, you're going to come with me and be my person. And, bless his heart, my husband has seen me through so many health things. And he was like, oh, you want me to come? Like, well, I just thought, because Jane's there, you guys would, team up and all this stuff. And I realized, okay, so don't get upset, Amy. Like, this is just a miscommunication. I didn't vocalize to him how I pictured my time with Jane going, right? I never said that. I just expected him to read my mind, I guess. And then he was assuming that, she was going to be that person for me.
Yes.
And so he wasn't planning on going. But the way I heard that conversation when we had it was, you're not worth it. You're not, I'm too busy for this. Another medical thing from you. What is this? Like, oh my God. That's what I heard. And that's based on old wounds. And the worst thing that I can do in those situations is hold him hostage to my old stuff. Does that make sense? where it's like, oh, I'm going to choose to go down that path again when I now know better. Like there was a time I didn't know, right? That I was like hemorrhaging my stuff all over everyone.
Right.
But now I can recognize it and it's almost worse because I'm like, oh my God, I see what I'm doing, you know? And I have to almost just like fight with my emotions and walk myself through that whole process of if you go down that path, is that going to do any good for you, Amy? Like you're just going to be spinning and like
Yep.
get mad and it's not worth it. You know this is about your stuff. Just gently pat yourself on the chest and say to your heart, "Okay, I love you," and then move on. But it's funny. I do expect my husband to have ESP or something.
Right. I mean, so great. And I think what is really helpful to me sometimes is, like you just said, having compassion for I call it just the automatic thinking. I have an automatic response to something from the past. And the more spaciousness I can have and compassion for myself around that thinking, oh, of course I'm going to have this thinking because I have this history. And then not letting it stop me from still asking for what I need.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. It's
So
like,
deep.
yeah, because both exist. Like I have these thoughts and yeah, they're inaccurate, but I also am very clear now about what I want. I want my husband to be, it's so wild that you're talking about this because when I had the procedure in December,
Yeah.
my sweetheart wanted to be my person and he lives a state away. And long story short, I wanted my son to take me because I've known my son for 25 years. I know he's very easygoing and chill. And my sweetie was way more anxious about the whole thing. And we had to go through this whole conversation around, his feelings were, and I said, it's about me. The problem is I'm going to be worried about you and I don't want to worry about you. I need to focus on myself. But because you and I are in this intimate relationship, I'm going to be preoccupied with how you're doing. And I'm not going to be that way with my son because we have, we know each other. And so it is interesting in those very close relationships. It takes, talk about brave enough because and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I was thinking how part of being brave enough is to really have the hard conversations. I have a couple of like best friends, and one of them, I worked at McLean Hospital for years, and she and I see each other every couple of weeks. We have lunch together. And over the last 6 months, she calls it her Sagittarian self. I'll be telling her something and she'll have this like overreaction. She'll go like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And then she'll like kind of not shame me, but she has this kind of, what are you doing kind of reaction. And sometimes like I've noticed I've gotten my feelings hurt because I'm trying to tell her something important to me. And so I thought to myself, it was taking up all this space in my head. And I said, if I can't talk to one of my closest friends about my feelings being hurt, I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody about it. And so we ended up I called her up this week. We had this conversation and she was so loving. And she's like, yeah, I totally do that. And it's nothing about you. It's just how I respond. And we promised each other to practice, like when our feelings get hurt, to just say it at the moment. And one thing I thought about, and this is to do with kind of one of the quotes here I was going to read, is I believe, and this is going to sound really out there, okay, that a lot of mental health issues and physical issues come from not being able to face your truth.
Absolutely.
And whether it's that I'm gay and I can't acknowledge it and I repress it and I spend my whole life acting out, or I don't want to be married to this person and I can't face. So this quote on page 84, you can't fake the core. The truth that lives there will eventually win out. It's a God we must obey, a force that brings us all inevitably to our knees. It asks eternally, will you do it later or will you do it now? And I don't know, just from seeing people for years and years and years, like that whole incident with my friend telling the truth, I think to myself, if it's hard for me, and I have practice, we're both sober, we both work on our relationships, your marriage, our kid relationships. How is the average person not just repressing and avoiding? Because it is hard and it does take courage.
Yeah.
And I think if you can't face it, it's gotta come out somewhere.
Right.
And I don't know, I just have been thinking a lot about that why are we so afraid of the truth? I think because it's going to cost something, right? It's at a risk.
100%.
Right?
No, I totally agree. And I think too, if we have ever been rejected in the past by being vulnerable, just by sharing what's really going on, and I have certainly been in those shoes. It sort of teaches you oh, well, that's not okay. We don't share our feelings. We don't talk. If our feelings are hurt, we just quietly deal with it and go about our business. But it's I love that you brought that up, because in the safety of some relationships that are close, it's oh my gosh, how valuable is this that someone loves me and can be, so gentle with my heart, right? To the point where I can risk, because for me, I don't know, I always dramatize it. I'm oh, I'm going to risk the friendship if I say my feelings are hurt or whatever. I always think that's at risk, and it may or may not be. I don't know. But if the friendship is really valuable to me, or the relationship is very valuable to me, it's also very valuable to me to feel safe within that space. And so, I need to be able to share things just as the other person needs to be able to share things and feel like they can do that without being abandoned. And for those of us who have abandonment issues, that's a really tough practice.
It totally is. And I think what you said is brilliant, which is, the problem is, if we've done this in the past and people overreacted or blamed us or got angry, then we've learned not to do it. Right. And the trouble is that there are going to be people in our lives that maybe we can't have those conversations with. And then it's an assessment. Well, what kind of friendship is this? If I can't be who I really am in this relationship, then is it a primary friendship or is it more on the surface? Because the people in my life that I have deep relationships with know that our reactions are about us, and we can own that. But not everybody does. And it's almost like I've thought about this, my friendships and sobriety. There's always a moment when I meet someone after a while where we have a little conflict, and it's always can we get through it or not? And usually it's can we talk it out? Is our relationship going to be at that level or not? Yeah. And, sometimes it doesn't go beyond, whatever, a certain situation. Yeah. But, what a gift to have connections where you can do that. Because the fact is, if I hurt you, I would want you to tell me, because it would be by mistake or it would be an error in judgment. So that's the thing. And I'm not suggesting every time you have a little hurt, you say something. But for me, how I know is if it keeps popping up. Like if you get over something and you never think about it again, fine. But if it kept coming up with this friend of mine and I knew I had to do it. So yeah, relationships, you have to be brave enough to work through some stuff in relationships, right?
Bringing it full circle. I love that. You have to be brave enough.
Oh my gosh. We only have a few minutes left. You want to pick one more? I'll pick one more.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pick, let's see. This is kind of a long one. Okay. I'm going to pick page 123.
Okay.
And it says, you don't have a right to the cards you believe you should have been dealt. You have an obligation to play the hell out of the ones you're holding.
Amen.
Woo! That hit me like a 2x4 upside the head. I mean, that was like, yeah. I mean, how much time and energy have I spent thinking, you know, about the situations that I'm in, the things that could have been, the things that could have been turned out differently, if only, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, now as a result of the fact that none of that is in my control at this moment,
yes,
what is my choice to be, right? Like, how am I going to move forward from this? How am I going to behave as a result of like, okay, yes, that is true. I felt one way. I was dealt a different hand of cards. I was hoping for this. I received that, whatever. And so now what? You know?
Yes. Yes. It's like the what ifs or people just, blaming others for the way their life is or, oh my gosh, there's so many ways. It's like self-pity and, wishing things were different is really such a no man's land. I mean, it's like, and she does talk about, look, life, it can be hard and nobody else. And I think there's another quote in here somewhere where she's like, nobody else is going to do this for you. Yeah. Like, it's up to you. And, that is the mantra also of codependency recovery. It's like the other person isn't changing. I mean, may not even want to change. Like, I have to be the one to make these decisions that are not easy. It's so much easier to blame someone else. But, it's up to us. And again, to have compassion with ourselves and, give ourselves time. And also my thought is, and one of the best quotes in here is on grief. And I know we talked about grief the last time, but what I think about when you say that, this is on page 58, when you say that, I also think when people are stuck in, it should have been different, there's a resistance to grieving. Because if we can grieve what didn't happen, I saw a lot of clients, and I don't know if this is common with people in addiction or just life, that had an incident, 2 clients right off the bat, with sports. Like, I knew a woman who wanted to be a skater in the Olympics, and she was an unbelievable skater. And when she was 18, she had a fall and trashed her knee. And her journey went sideways and addiction came in. And that whole part of her using, and part of the time when we saw each other in recovery, was I could have been in the Olympics. Well, you couldn't because you had an accident. So it was always about what should have taken place rather than grieving, which was the work around what didn't happen. And that was really the most important piece. All right, so this is the quote. You let time pass. That's the cure. You survive the days. You float like a rabid ghost through the weeks. You cry and wallow and lament and scratch your way back up through the months. And then one day you find yourself alone on a bench in the sun, and you close your eyes and lean your head back and you realize you're okay. And it's like, yeah, like eventually sometimes grief is about just like time. I mean, obviously we have to feel our feelings, but sometimes it's time. And then we do come to the other side and realize, oh my gosh, I haven't been thinking about the person for a day or whatever the situation is. Yeah.
You're so wise, and like I love that you tied that up with like the concept of grief, because that's one thing that I didn't say in my last comment was that, yeah, I mean, it's important, so important to recognize, right, those feelings and to deal with them. And then for me, at least, to step forward, right?
Yes.
And just keep going despite the fact that like it hurts. Does that make sense? Like so many times I've had surgeries or procedures where part of the healing is to move. And it's like, that's the last thing you want to do, right? Because you're like, I'm in pain, damn it. You know? So I love that. That is just, it's so true. It's like, yes, validate that it hurts. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
With that. You know,
Oh my
and
gosh.
also we have to move.
Yes, we have to move. Oh my God. We're going to wrap up. I just want people to know Amy has 8 children. I had 1 child, and all I think about when you say that is when I had my baby and I was still like 60 pounds overweight and my legs were like tree trunks because I had so much water. And the doctor's like, you need to walk around. And I'm like, oh, I do not want to walk around. But it's so true, whether moving psychologically or physically or whatever, this is about moving forward. So to
And being
everybody
brave
in
enough
our
to do that. Yeah.
audience, be brave enough, get this book. We'll talk about more quotes another time. It's been great. We love you. And thanks for joining us for the Boozeless Book Club.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of 8's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.